Welcome to the Digital Academy. I hope you're having a good day. Today I got a cool one. We're going to check out The Lord of the Flies. This is another important piece of literature to help understand kind of our current world. I think this is a book that really resonates with people because it makes a really interesting point about, the potential dangers of mob rule and what can happen when anarchy actually wins. Right, or actually is given space. All right, so let's just check this out. I'll make a bunch of points as we get going. All right, love you guys. Thanks for checking this out. We did everything adults would do. What went wrong? It's a great quote. If you're not familiar with the book, it'll make more sense in a second. We did everything adults would do.
William Golding was losing his faith in humanity. Serving aboard a British destroyer in World War II, the philosophy teacher turned Royal Navy lieutenant was constantly confronted by the atrocities of his fellow man. And when he returned to England to find Cold War superpowers threatening one another with nuclear annihilation, he was forced to interrogate the very roots of human nature. These musings on the inevitability of violence would inspire his first...
Okay, so keep in mind, this book is kind of looking at a couple things. What human nature actually is. The inevitability of violence. Okay? It's going to probably get into this in a second, but the tendency for mobs to turn power hungry.
And most famous novel, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
After being rejected by 21 publishers, the novel was finally published in 1954. It takes its title from Beelzebub, a demon associated with pride and war, two themes very much at the heart of Golding's book. The novel was a bleak satire of a classic island adventure story, a popular genre.
Right, so again, what's satire? South Park satire. South Park's the best satire show around, right? So satire is like making a counterpoint by making fun of the point, sort of, right? So it's like instead of running against Donald Trump, it's making fun of Donald Trump, making a satire video of Trump where he looks stupid and he's saying dumb things. That's a satire, right? It's like trying to use comedy to make a point. There's probably a better definition than that, but when things are done satirically, it's usually because it's a scenario where it's unsafe, right? So maybe a Shakespearean play has a satire that is actually saying something negative in a kind of really clever, unique way about royalty that if he just straight out said it would have gotten in trouble, right? So now South Park does it in a more comedic way, but yeah, so it's a satire. So it's like a critique of what people think their utopia would be.
Where young boys get shipwrecked in exotic locations. The protagonists in these stories are able to master nature while evading the dangers posed by their new environments. The genre also endorsed the problematic colonialist narrative found in many British works at the time, in which the boys teach the island's native inhabitants their allegedly superior British values. Golding's satire even goes so far as to explicitly use the setting and character names from R.M. Ballantyne's Coral Island, one of the most beloved island adventure novels. But while Ballantyne's book promised readers pleasure, profit, and unbounded amusement, Golding's had darker things in store.
That's why it's a satire.
Lord of the Flies opens with the boys already on the island, but snippets of conversation hint at their terrifying journey. Their plane had been shot down in the midst of an unspecified nuclear war. The boys, ranging in age from 6 to 13...
Interesting, right? An unspecified nuclear war. This is in 1954 it was published, so that's after World War II. You know, Cold War tensions are very real.
...are strangers to each other, all except for a choir, clad in black uniforms and led by a boy named Jack. Just as in Ballantyne's Coral Island, the boys' new home appears to be a paradise, with fresh water, shelter, and abundant food sources. But even from the novel's opening pages, a macabre darkness hangs over this seemingly tranquil situation. The boys' shadows are compared to black, bat-like creatures, while the choir itself first appears as something dark, fumbling along the beach. Within hours of their arrival, the boys are already trading terrifying rumors of a vicious beastie lurking in the woods.
Yep.
From these ominous beginnings, Golding's narrative reveals how quickly cooperation unravels without the presence of an adult authority.
What to say? Right, but this is what the book's about, right? It's like, what happens when you have all these people in this situation? Everyone wants no government, everyone wants no authority. I mean, everyone wants their own authority, everybody wants their own free will. How long does the cooperativeness of that last? And how quick does it become selfish?
Initially, the survivors try to establish some sense of order. A boy named Ralph blows into a conch shell to assemble the group and delegate tasks. But as Jack vies for leadership with Ralph, the group splinters, and the boys submit to their darker urges. The mob of children soon forgets their plans for rescue, silences the few voices of reason, and blindly follows Jack to the edge of the island and the edge of sanity. The novel's universal themes of morality, civility, and society have made it a literary classic, satirizing both conventions of its time and long-held beliefs about humanity. While island adventure stories...
Right, like that if everyone just got out of the way and we could just live in these happy groups, that everything would be happy-go-lucky. And actually, maybe not. It would be happy-go-lucky for a bit, especially if you were with all people that you liked and loved, and maybe if it was your extended family living on an island somewhere and all the mainlands went and lived on some island and everything was cool. But once you start having bigger groups, once you start having groups that faction and break into smaller groups, you know, paradise becomes hell pretty quick. You become the Lord of the Flies.
Often support colonialism, Lord of the Flies turns this trope on its head. Rather than cruelly casting native populations as stereotypical savages, Golding transforms his angelic British schoolboys into savage caricatures.
Yeah.
And as the boys fight their own battle on the island, the far more destructive war that brought them there continues off the page. Even if the boys were to be rescued from themselves, what kind of world would they be returning to?
See, that's the question too, right? So there's this inner and outer turmoil theme. And there's this theme in the book too that is, I don't know how much they can talk about it. He kind of just mentioned it, but there's a sense of a bit of hopelessness. Like even if they were to somehow like figure it out and be perfect, like there's this incredible war going on around them anyways that might, you know, it might not even matter. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter if you and your wife fix your problem that you had this morning if your whole country's about to get bombed, right? So it has that's like a very cynical kind of nihilistic thought, but it's one of the ideas here.
With so few references to anchor the characters in a specific place or period, the novel feels truly timeless, an examination of human nature at its most bare. And though not all readers may agree with Golding's grim view, Lord of the Flies is unsettling enough to challenge even the most determined optimist.
Yeah, depressing.
Can you preserve your mind in a society where free will, self-expression, and curiosity are punishable offenses?
Can you preserve your mind in a society where free will and independent thought are punishable offenses? You know, how much bullshit can you swallow before it starts to affect your mental health?
Continue exploring this classic conundrum with our video on Fahrenheit 451.
Sorry guys, I already did that one. Because, yeah, Fahrenheit 451. That's another classic. That's what I'm kind of saying here. One of the things I want to start doing with this channel is really dump into this, okay? So I'm going to start doing tons of book reviews. Some of them are going to be some of these TED videos, but I've went through a lot of them already. I'm actually starting to line up some of my own books, and I'm going to do some of these just straight up book reviews. And that's going to be my next thing, because I think there's so much that we can learn from these things, right? And it's like, at this time of a lot of social unrest, it's like, it's important to look at what other people have said when they've been in other situations that have been sort of like this. And again, like I'm saying, there's a lot of complex social issues going on right now, and I think where I can maybe help some people in their understanding is in media literacy. Digital literacy is what I call it, right? And it's like the class that students tend to, I think, in general, like, but has a boring title because it sounds like digital literacy is going to be like a typing class. But it's really looking at this idea of like, how do you make sense of, after this video, maybe you go on Facebook and people are saying all kinds of nuts stuff, and I mean nuts in the sense of like emotionally charged and highly politically slanted, and then it's like, and then you turn on the news and it's like the other angle, and it's like, literacy now means being able to channel and find the signal within a massive, massive ocean of noise. And if I can help that a tiny bit, then the Digital Academy's done its job. I love you guys. Take care, and keep your stick on the ice. Because if someone passes to you, you got to be ready to shoot. Hockey analogy, but super important. Cheers.